the idea that these sort of sad, dusty figures have any real relevance. I mean, the real monarchs are the people that change opinion, form opinion, and basically rape national cultures. I think that Rupert Murdoch and Ronald McDonald between them have completely changed the face of Britain. I mean, he's not. It's a mistake to think he's alone. There's a lot of very vicious predators out there who consider it a creative act to acquire something and change it, destroy it, or whatever. But he is the best, I think, and the most.
And he's the biggest too.
The biggest and the most convincing. I mean, you know, the fact that he poses as a Christian. I mean, I hope only that he's right. I hope that the God in which he professes to believe does exist, and when he dies, he meets him.
The topless God.
That God takes the sun, because Rupert's going down to burn without any question at all.
Dennis Potter, in his last interview, said he really, of all the people, if he could kill anyone, it would be Rupert Murdoch, because he's destroyed Britain. Is that a...
No, I mean, he's not that powerful. I mean, Thatcher did a better job than he did on that. although Thatcher and he, of course, worked hand in hand. I mean, it's a very, very unholy and disgusting alliance that the British Conservative Party have made with the press barons, in which that they will allow all our monopolies legislation and our common ownership legislation to be disbanded. Rupert can have television series, television stations, he can have newspapers, whatever. Same thing's happening over here, and in return, they'll get him elected every 5 years and bag the Labour Party or whatever. But I don't think Rupert's that influential, and I don't think one should be too heavy in terms of individuals. I mean, the truth is that we're all part of a system. We can all fight back. I mean, I do loathe Murdoch for the hypocrisy with which he purports to be trying to improve things, with which he claims, oh, I'm against the stuffy old fellows at the BBC, I'm a real Democrat. Well, we all know if you put a public hanging on the telly, everyone's going to watch it. That doesn't mean it's a good thing to put it on the telly. We are all responsible, we should all answer to our own morality, and his answer to that is, I've got no, it's up to you, you know, I'll show it, if you don't want to watch it, you turn it off, or whatever. But having said that, I think Potter's right. I don't think killing anybody is you know, call me an old hippie if you will, and I know you know I am one. I think we need to regain the debate somehow, because I think he's just very, very clever at putting his point across, and it's not easy, not difficult when you've got 5 newspapers and 3 television channels.
I have to take issue with you there, because murder is fun, and Amanda Keller's about to prove it. Will you hang around for sampling?
Hey, this is a link if ever I heard one. You're getting better, Andrew, I've got to tell you.
I'll get the helmet, I'll be Ray yet. Stand by for sampling. Ladies and gentlemen, only please welcome the lady of sampling herself, Linda, nay, Amanda Keller. Linda, Ben? Your hair looks fabulous. I don't know why we're doing this. Murder is fun.
Murder is fun, or so says this publication, which is called, funnily enough, Murder is Fun. This is a publication from America that's obsessed with murder, kidnapping, disaster, and the more creative, the more bizarre, the violence and the mayhem, the better. But it's also very funny. It's written by an American guy called John Marr, who puts this together as a hobby, and what a weird hobby it is. Look at this first one, Death at Disneyland.
Oh.
This guy has compiled every single accident-related death in the history of Disneyland. And in fact, there haven't been that many, but gee, they've been good. There's one case he tells of a middle-aged woman who falls out of the roller coaster, lands onto the track, tries to find her footing, is whacked by the trolley from behind her, under which she is pinned for the remainder of the ride. I mean, I think she went to Tomorrowland a little too soon.
I took that ride. It was tremendous.
You wondered what the speed bumps were. As you, oh,
You certainly would spill your big gulp, wouldn't you? There's no question.
You certainly would.
You wonder what that screaming is in the distance. They must be loving that ride.
But there are some really extraordinary things. My favourite is an article in this one about the top 10 child kidnappings. And he says on the back, small, compact and readily transportable, pound for pound, children are the most cost-effective kidnapping targets available. Pretty dreadful. But he tells the story of one heartwarming tale where a child is kidnapped, parents pay the ransom, the child is returned, except every birthday the child still receives a birthday card from your kidnapper, it says on the bottom of the card. It's a bit macabre.
That's very touching. If they just checked the address on the back, they could have caught those.
Oh, God! I didn't quite think of that.
Did you ever
Did I get kidnapped as a child?
Your parents didn't pay
Strangely,
the
it never
ransom?
happened. Yeah, my parents took me, you know,
Yeah.
left me without a street map a few miles from home.
Yeah.
But no, I was never kidnapped. Did I ever? Was that what you?
No,
were
no.
asking?
Did you celebrate birthdays as a child?
Oh yeah, very
Charming,
much
yeah.
so. I mean, you give them. You have to stop celebrating because you start once you realise you're counting your card stash and it's really beginning to depress you. You know, like when no friends anymore and down to family, and then brothers and sisters begin to forget, and then it's just your mum. You know, you almost want to say, "Forget it, mum. Let's not rub it in."
Keep
You
my
know?
dignity.
Christmas is the big one in my household, but birthdays not big for business.
The saddest thing I've ever heard.
It is a bit sad. I can see you're moved by it. But,
Yeah, I am moved by it. I moved to go on with Murder is Punished.
Well, there is one really
I am
interesting...
getting good
Yeah, I know.
You're a great singer,
Ruthless
man.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Thanks. Love to hear.
There's one hero from all this who is the man who was sexually aroused by blowing up trains. And part of the...
Where does somebody get the breath for that? I don't
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a hell of a blowjob, isn't it? Yeah.
But part of the fascination, part of the fantasy for him was to actually pretend he'd been one of the survivors. But he went too far when he actually claimed lost luggage with the railway. So that's how they caught him. I mean, loser of the century or what. But
God,
there's,
people are stupid.
oh, and there's another really macabre story in here about the man that goes on some murder rampage, comes home to kill his mother, as one does,
Yes, well.
chops her head off, cuts out her voice box, puts it down the garbage disposal, puts his mother's head on the mantelpiece and throws darts at it. Is that symbolic or what?
But are these stories verified? I mean,
Well,
I
supposedly...
mean, I could make one up now. Yeah.
It wouldn't be that good,
This
it just
bloke,
wouldn't
he
be.
gets his own scrotum and he stretches it out. He strangles the TV presenter and then he plucks out all the hairs and he bungs up somebody's
You're
exhaust
turning
pipe
me
and the
off.
car explodes. You're getting a...
I look forward to reading about
I pay
that.
a fortune for this sort of stuff.
Somebody give me a book, we have to beat Andrew down.
Amanda, Ben, murder is fun. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ben.
It's been a pleasure, Andrew.
Thank you, Amanda. There's been a lot of talk recently about how hard it is for single women to find decent single men. Well, not anymore, thanks to Clio magazine's fabulous article telling you where the men are. Now, it's in the latest issue of Clio, the August issue, the one which has the article, "Is Your Vagina Normal?" on the front cover. And I was shocked when I read this article to discover that mine is not. Now, the article about how to find men is fantastic. It tells you 9 great ways to meet men. Here's one, quote, "Go to a party to mix, mingle and meet the opposite sex." Brilliant! Brilliant! How did they think of that? They also suggest, quote, "Do something you really like and at the same time meet attractive men who share your interests." Genius! Why didn't we think of it before? So well researched. Tough luck if your interest is collecting and pickling your own roadkill, but nonetheless. Clio go on to suggest both good and bad opening lines in any given situation. For instance, if you're a singles traveller, a good opening line is, quote, "Nice backpack." Not if you're in Belanglo State Forest, it isn't. And if you're at a party, a bad opening line is that guacamole on your shirt? I'm not making this up, to which you better hope the answer is yes. Mind you, I'm sure there are worse opening lines than that. For instance, "How much do you cost?" is a very bad opening line. "Hey, you don't sweat much for a fat guy" is a very bad opening line. And I believe, "Are you Sarah Connor?" tends to freak some people out sometimes. Now, so inspired were we by this Clio article that we've devised a couple of surefire ways for single women to get a date. And what we're going to do tonight is apply a date for a volunteer single woman in our audience. We didn't have time to pick a volunteer now, so here's a volunteer I prepared earlier. Please welcome Kylie. Just stand here 1 minute, Kylie. Now, Kylie, you are desperate and dateless.
Oh, tonight I am.
You're a completely single woman. Okay, well, Kylie, what you may not know is a great place to meet single men who are interested in sex is a war zone. Now, this is how it works. You're strolling on the cliffs above Sarajevo, listening to the romantic sound of mortars bursting at dusk, okay, and then you spot the cutest, least dead guy in the firing line, and then you crawl towards him in a military and yet sexy fashion. Now, no, Kylie, I'm going to demonstrate this for you, and then I'll
Follow your lead.
Then follow my lead.
Okay.
So just stay here, and I'll call you over. Here we go. Military yet sexy fashion. So it's... There we go. Wiggle the bottom there. There we go. Okay, Kylie, can you do that for me? Come on over. Military and yet sexy. Don't overplay it now, Kylie. Sexy, sexy, very good. Slow motion too, excellent. Okay, now as soon as you get here, Kylie, you hit him with what Cleo considers to be a good opening line. Try this one.
Is that a what?
Oozy.
Is that an Uzi in your pocket, or are you just pleased to see me?
Now, Kylie, that is a very old line, as we all know, but military men are thrilled when women show an interest in their weaponry. However, Kylie, it is essential in a war zone never ever to use a bad opening line such as this.
Would you like to dance?
Yeah, I'd love to dance.
Bang! You see, Kylie, the success potential in a war zone is very low, but the good news is you don't have to commit to the relationship. Now, maybe a war zone isn't for you, so what we recommend as a surefire way of picking up a date is the Coma ward at your local hospital. Come on in, Kylie. Nice prize, Kylie. She wore blue velvet. Now, of course, the downside of dating coma patients is they do tend to sleep around a lot, but once you get over that, it's a very simple thing. All you have to do to date a coma patient is, well, basically walk in and do whatever you want because they can't stop you. Hit them with a strong opening line like this.
I love the way your ECG machine goes beep, beep.
There you go. You're breaking the ice already, and see, he kind of likes you. Now, a bad opening line would be this.
You look like death.
Yes, no, coma patients are very, very sensitive. Now, the success rate with coma patients is high, particularly if you're a lousy conversationalist and hate to travel. And the thing about coma patients, the most attractive... Do you find him attractive?
Not really.
Oh, come on, I mean, he's a steady guy. He's about as steady as guys get. I have seen his face and you don't want to, Kylie. Let me try. The beauty, I'm sure you could make a go of it, and even if you couldn't, the beauty about dating coma patients is this, Kylie. If you don't want to continue the relationship, all you have to do is give them the flick. It's as simple as that. And Kylie, if you're a necrophiliac, you can continue the relationship after the show. So there you go, ladies. It is that simple to get a date in this country. Kylie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who said romance is dead?
Greetings, poignant friends. I stand here today surrounded by the stench of death. And who is responsible for this senseless slaughter, this masticating matricide of Mother Nature? Well, my friends, the bone must be pointed at that most callous of species, vegetarians. There was a time when the humble lettuce frolicked happily in its patch, living out its 70 days in relative security. Oh yes, the free-range lettuce could hold its head high. Not so the battery lettuce. No sooner do they pop their heads up than they are lopped off and torn asunder without so much as stunning them with a club. And then they are put through a shredder and then pressed between two slices of dead wheat with perhaps the butchered corpse of a tomato, and then to rub salt into the wound. They rub salt into the wound! And in a final hideous attempt to hide the evidence of their foul deeds, they eat it. So remember, my friends, an apple a day is manslaughter. Oh, sorry, mate. Medic, medic.
Written and spoken by Flacco de Borscht for no apparent reason.
It's always a pleasure to have Ed Cooper on the show. His latest album, Character Assassination, just debuted in the ARIA charts at 32 with a razor blade. And tonight, he's going to sing the new single from it, Little Fiddle, from his album, Character Assassination. Please welcome Ed Cooper.
What goes down will come on, but it's so plain to see. I see you. You're spending money to come flying out to me. I know your troubles in another sexy for what reason I can't see. You see, I think that sexy only can apply to me. The things you won't have a real noticeable stink. You see that things are really not as sweet as you think. Everybody that you know, don't you know now, they are all just a part of this little fiddle. And in this case it's so hard to be wrong. Yes, ma'am, they're the ones that everyone should have one. And you will find that it will be just like I said it would be. You can't change factors just by acting simply. You have much talent, but your problems, they're bad. You find that you can't buy your way out of this, and that is sad. Everybody that you know, don't you know now, they are all just a part of this little fiddle. And in this case it's so hard to be wrong. Yes, ma'am, they're the ones who say everyone should have one.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Edward. I sound like Dr. Smith. Thank you, Edward. Coming through for this, the musical challenge, where we check out the true musical credentials of our guest acts. Now, I'm really hoping you'll either get the theme from Gilligan's Island or Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep.
That sounds very exciting.
It does sound exciting. In here are some of the worst songs ever written, and we're going to draw one out, and Ed is going to close the show by singing it. Are you ready for this, Ed? He's keen, I can tell. Here we go. What's it going to be? Oh, it's got me. The Burt Newton barrel. Oh, yes. This one's for you. The Brady Bunch theme. Are you in for that? Ladies and gentlemen, to close the show, Mr. Ed Cooper will sing the Brady Bunch theme. I'm looking forward to this.
Water all over the bathroom floor can be slippery and dangerous, but there is an easy way to prevent accidents. Just place something really valuable on the floor, and everyone will be a lot more careful.
That makes sense. Now, don't forget, if you have a handy hint, particularly a handy hint which could be in some way dangerous to the health of those around you, do send it in, because you could win some fabulous prizes. For instance, this one, a trip for two to New York. Actually, it's just a video of a trip for two to New York. A trip for two to New York with United Airlines, flying business class, which means you've got to carry a mobile phone and be a bit of a wanker. Also, if your name is Ann Citizen, you could win this Visa card with $1,500 worth of spending money from ANZ, and there's accommodation for, I think it's 2 or maybe more, at the Renaissance Hotel, where lots of Renaissance people stay who have long since been dead. All of that could be yours. All you have to do is send in your handy hint to this address. Amanda's Handy Hints. That's Amanda's Handy Hints, not Linda's Handy Hints. Locked bag 2222, Crow's Nest, New South Wales, 2065. Fabulous prizes could be yours, trust me. We're getting about 200 entries a day, so yours better be a good one. Now, moving right along, I've got to warn you, this next interview will contain graphic descriptions of kinky sex. And that should keep everyone glued to this network, so let's move on. Our next guest is the High Priest of Bondage and Discipline in Australia. He founded the Hellfire Clubs in Sydney and Melbourne. Will you please welcome Richard Masters? Hello. Richard, we've got some footage here of the Hellfire Club. I think it's in Sydney. Would you like to take us through, for those of us too timid to go in, roughly what goes on there?
Well, at the Hellfire Club, it's a reasonably normal nightclub in some senses. There's a dance floor, and there is a room, or two rooms, where S&M activity goes on. There's whipping, spanking, bondage, people play with candle wax, and other forms of sadomasochism, foot fetishing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, just your normal night out.
Well, your normal night out, exactly.
Basically. The candle wax business, that's a rather bizarre one. What's the joy of candle wax?
Well, I think it's the sensation of it dropping onto someone's back, and it's, I mean, the pain is there, but it goes pretty soon afterwards, and people find the feeling erotic.
Now, most people try and avoid pain. What is the turn-on of pain?
Pain. Well, it's something that's very hard to put your finger on it in a lot of ways. I think people are into it.
But it's much easier with your whole hand, yeah.
Oh, of course, exactly. I mean, for something like a spanking, I think most people can relate to maybe how that is erotic. Something can be light, or maybe possibly when somebody's having sex, they've, you know, leaned against something sharp or hurt themselves, you know, near the moment of climax, they can
Often
understand.
if it's on a metal fence, I found that.
Exactly.
Yes, yes. So, does anyone here find the thought of spanking erotic? Nobody's admitting to it, but do you actually have quite creative theme nights? You had a spanking Elvis party, I believe, or an Elvis spanking party, or whatever. Now, what was that?
The spanking Elvis. Well, actually, in a scene from Blue Hawaii, Elvis puts, I think, the female co-lead over his knee and spanks her during one scene. And I had a photograph of this, and every week at Hellfire I do a different card or theme. And basically, that was what this particular week was. So I did a tribute to the King. I think it was this time last year, the week of his death, I think.
Oh, how nice. What a very, very touching tribute. What's been your most successful theme night?
Successful? I think we've done, you know, tributes to communism, where one comes, you know, dressed up as, you know, various outfits of the communist regime.
It doesn't strike me as being very S&M.
No, well, I think, I mean, uniforms, for example, are related to sadomasochism. You know, but I also like to take, you know, have a lot of fun with it. We've done, like, Shannon Doherty nights, like We Hate Brenda, as I think all, you know...
So what's the idea of that people come dressed up as Brenda and get beaten up?
Exactly. I mean, no, get spanked the way I think she richly deserves.
Oh, the one she richly deserves. Now, some people, of course, claim that this S&M sex play is just eroticising violence, particularly against women. Fair call?
I don't think so. I mean, I think sadomasochism, it has women in a dominant situation and men in a submissive situation, and vice versa. I think if in the bedroom, for example, you want to be submissive or dominant, I mean, I think that's completely up to you. You may have different politics in real life. I don't think that if you sexually feel as if you want to be submissive or dominant, that really doesn't affect, in my opinion, you know, one's belief and how one should appear in the world.
When did you first discover, or how did you first discover you were into S&M?
Well, it's strange. I guess ever since I was reasonably young, I was never a hit as a child, so I mean, I don't know where it came from. I used to find...
That's the problem, you weren't disciplined enough, and now look at you!
I think that's definitely it. I think that would have to be it. But, you know, I guess I used to have erotic associations, you know, as I was growing up with this kind of thing, and I remember...
How does this happen?
I don't know. I mean, you know, I would read, for example, in a novel, and it would feature something like a spanking in it. I mean, contemporary novels, you know, and it would interest me, or I would read something that involved bondage, and it would be fascinating to me. And I began to collect erotica on this, and I guess, you know, one thing led to another, and I became, you know, it's like my hobby.
Well, what do you mean? What do you think? One thing led to another. It doesn't tell us much. Explain.
Well, for example, I guess you know, when I first started dating girls, I began to introduce them to it, and some used to think I was a kook. Others...
Now, how do you do that? How do you introduce a girl to the concept of spanking?
It is difficult, but what one does, I guess, is to bring the topic up and, like, just say, what do you think about trying this out tonight?
So, what, casually you're watching the news and say, God, Paul Keating deserves a good spanking?
Exactly.
It's just like that, is it?
It's done exactly like that.
And then, obviously, they agree. And then, and if the girl responds...
Favourably, you say, well, why don't we adjourn to the appropriate position?
What? Taking a seat in the upper house, as it were.
Or you get... Exactly, that's right. Oh no, you get the straight back chair and you sit down upon it and put the culprit in the right position.
And are you always dominant, or do you like to be submissive as well?
Oh, I guess I'm mainly dominant, but I mean, I've tried both.
Are there extreme practices of S&M that you wouldn't dabble in?
Well, for example, I think in England at the moment there are men that have been arrested, I think, for performing extreme sadomasochism, which is like, I think they nail parts of their body to boards and things like this,
But you know, the Tory party are like that.
Yeah,
they're just...
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, as you say, the whole English Parliament, for example, they're all into this kind of thing. I mean, you know, it's quite notorious. And, you know, they have been arrested. And it's a case called the Spanner case. So I think it's going to the European Human Rights Commission, so they can actually, like, overturn this decision, because these men are in jail, really, for doing something to themselves that they want to do. And look, it's not my cup of tea, but I think that whatever you want to do to yourself or to someone who wants it done to them, you know, is fair play, you know. Yeah. As long as they are over the age of 18, which these people were, they're all, you know.
It's an interesting concept. So Jesus would have been arrested after being crucified.
Well, I mean, for example, the whole Christian religion, for example, it is based around a sadomasochistic image, a naked Christ on a cross, you know, nailed, you know. I mean, I couldn't think of anything more grotesque sadomasochistic image, and yet people openly worship this kind of thing and are fascinated by it.
It's a beautiful image you've left us with. Richard Masters, thank you very much. You've been a very bad boy. Thank you. That's good, thank you. I like the fact you're so open about it.
Murdoctor, a medico who sensationalizes prescriptions to get wider distribution.
And so to Loser of the Week, and our runner-up tonight are our favourite tabloid magazines, Woman's Day and New Idea, because of this tiny article in one of yesterday's papers on page 18. Wonder why it was so tiny. The tiny article revealing that not only does O.J. Simpson not have AIDS, he doesn't have cancer either. And what a terrible bummer for those magazines. But they're our runner-up tonight, because tonight's winner of Loser of the Week is actually a man who appeared recently on this show, Jim Rose from the Jim Rose Circus Sideshow. You may remember him having cigarettes stubbed out in his tongue, having his face crushed into glass, having darts thrown at his body. Well, recently, Jim was on a promotional jaunt in Europe, and he was giving an interview where, as is his wont, he was hammering a spoon into his nose. Or else that's the worst drug habit I've ever heard of. But anyway, he was hammering a spoon into his nose, he miscalculated, hit a blood vessel, it burst, and ended up with blood splattered all over him, his own blood. Now, a pretty spectacular promotional stunt, you would agree. For a circus, the only problem for Jim was he was doing it on radio. Loser, loser, loser. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I give you, with the honorary silver spoon, as our Loser of the Week, Mr. Jim Rose.
The night's been nudged away by the impatient sun, anxious to remind me that I am here for another day. It glares, accusing me of some dubious nighttime activity, but the sun will never know what happened. Only you and I. Let's meet for lunch one day and let the sun in on our secrets. But be prepared for a week of dull weather.
Here is the late breaking news. In London, hopefuls from all over the world are competing to be Bill Wyman's permanent replacement in the Rolling Stones. This would-be Rolling Stone was disappointed to discover no actual rolling was required. Although he did later get a gig with the Spin Doctors, and it's rumoured he's seeing Princess Di. All those wacky English. In Victoria, Canada, members of the Australian Commonwealth Games team have complained that the Canadians have allocated them substandard facilities. The synchronised swimmers were particularly upset that they weren't even given a pool to practice in. And in finance, as you probably know, interest rates are set to rise from 8.75% to 9.25%, so it's now 12% more expensive to live in poverty. And as of next month, all children living in poverty are to be evicted. You have been warned. Looking at what the papers won't say tomorrow in the Australian reports, new Commonwealth Games hope, Tunstall for the high jump. The West Australian says the Pope is to visit Sarajevo in a Pope-mobile fitted with anti-tank nuns. And the Courier Mail reports that Prozac is being used to stop obsessive behaviour in dogs, and from now on they'll be licking their genitals just for fun. That's a nice thought, isn't it? That's all we have time for tonight. We're going to be back next week. Our guests will include RuPaul, Garth Brooks and Malcolm McLaren. But to take us out tonight... Oh, remember, as we always say, society's to blame. To take us out tonight with our musical challenge. Singing, I'm looking forward to this, the theme from the Brady Bunch. Please welcome the fiercely independent Mr. Ed Cooper.
Busy bringing up 3 girls of her own. All of them had hair of gold, like their mother, the youngest one in curls. Now here's a story of a man named Brady, who was busy with 3 boys of his own. There were 4 men living all together, and they were all alone. Till this one day that this lady met this fella, and they knew that it was much more than a hunch, that this group would one day form a family. That's the way they all became the Brady Bunch, the Brady Bunch, the Brady Bunch. That's the way they became the Brady Bunch. The